I'm Steve, and I work in IT, so I'm Steve in IT. And I'm a solutions architect for an IT vendor. If you're also in IT, then you've probably worked with a solutions architect before, or many. If you haven't, I found a great definition on Coursera.com. It says, a solutions architect is a person who builds the bridge between business problems and technical solutions. And I think that's a pretty good way to explain it. Now, I'm going to make another video later about what it's like to be a solutions architect. Actually, I'm planning on doing quite a few videos on what it's like to be on the vendor side of IT, but that's for later. Now, solutions architect run the gamut between very documentation and proposal focused with very little technical work to very technical consulting and implementation work. But most SAs, like we're called, fall somewhere between doing both. But one thing every SA has to do is be an effective communicator. So I'm going to teach you two techniques I learned from people I consider effective communicators that I like to use when I think I might not be communicating the best. Now, these are going to be a little cagey and a little forced because we're not talking, you and I, but I think you'll get the gist. So I'm going to teach you a great way to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And did that make sense to you? Now, I hear what you're saying. Steve, I can say both of those, but you can say them better. Every SA, and pretty much everyone in IT and beyond, has been in a scenario kind of like this. You're standing in front of a room, surrounded by highly capable engineers, managers, maybe even a director or a C-level in there, but no pressure, you got this. You're using your shiny presentation remote / laser pointer / Alexa tell them how awesome the return on investment will be stick to point out some awesome graphs about sweet integrations when, from the back of the room, a grizzled database administrator who smells like a mainframe and eats SQL for breakfast calls out, yeah, but how does your transmogrifier rectiplant big pseudo mini data? But you don't know how it does that. You haven't even studied big pseudo mini data. Suddenly, your palms start to sweat, your knees weaken, arms get heavy, mom's spaghetti. But the moment you own it with this, not this, but something like this. I understood what you said as looking for more information about how our transmogrifier rectiplants big pseudo mini data. I haven't worked through that specific use case, but I do see the value. Let's put a pin in that one while I run it by my team. Pause, write it down if you can, which is important because you might need it later. And then continue with the presentation at hand, use your laser pointer. You can use similar phrasing almost any time. It doesn't have to be a presentation, but I'm going to say it again and show you what it does. I understood what you said as looking for information on how our transmogrifier rectiplants big pseudo mini data. I haven't worked through that specific use case, but I can see the value. Let's put a pin in that one while I run it by my team. Now you can pause now and theorize before I explain it, as I understand it. I understood what you said as. That part puts the onus on you, the SA or whoever you are, instead of on the customer. And it gives them the opportunity to know that you, as the speaker, may understand what you are about to say next, or you may not. In other words, it removes any miscommunication blame from the customer and opens up the floor for better communication. Next. As looking for more information on how our transmogrifier rectiplants big pseudo mini data. Here, you're just trying to recant the question. You don't need to rephrase it in your own words because next you're going to tell them you don't know, which wouldn't seem genuine if you accidentally misrepresent the customer's question. So let's say I don't know, but let's say it better with, I haven't worked through that specific use case, but I can see the value. We're telling the customer we don't know, but not from utter incompetence or left field, but because you haven't done that specifically before. This compartmentalizes your knowledge gap as a tiny little hole instead of a knowledge canyon. It also serves to reaffirm the customer's question as important. You can see the value. This matters. Let's put a pin in that one while I run it by my team. It's a classic. There's many ways to say it, and many situations change the phrasing. If you don't have a team, I'll research that and get back to you. That one's definitely a classic, though it works in a pinch. It kind of rings hollow and reeks of delay. I'll drop a message about that to product management and let you know what they say. That one's great. You can swap it out for pretty much any department, development, engineering, customer service, and you can even sweeten the deal with something like, they'll be interested in that question. Although you should really only say that when it's true. But my favorite is exactly what I said. Let's put a pin in that one while I run it by my team. I like it because in my case, it's true, and it also stores the question for later instead of kicking the ball to someone else. See, I've got two chats at work where I can drop questions to my fellow SAs or to the greater customer-facing technical folks. So I can say, let's put a pin in that one, indicating we're just pausing the question, not abandoning or delaying that answer. And while I run it by my team, showing that I have a wealth of experience at my disposal, I've got this whole team behind me when my experience alone isn't sufficient. This in turn builds trust in both the product and your organization. Now try it and even practice it so you have it ready under pressure. I literally picked this up on a website myself and practiced it on an airplane, which probably looked crazy. Next, a little gem I picked up from a sales engineer, and this one serves to make sure the customer understands something you've said, but gives them room to blame you if they don't, instead of them feeling like a dummy. So let's say I do indeed know how the transmogrifier rectiplants Big Pseudo Mini data. Let's rewind and pick it back up from there. I'd say something like, I understood that as rectiplanting Big Pseudo Mini data in our transmogrifier. Great question. Similar start as last time. Repeat and acknowledge, but now we dive into the weeds. After all, this is a database engineer, a highly technical person. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on base interval G-code functions, storing variables as smaller placeholders. This lets transmogrifier call that pseudo data at need, allowing you to view your rectiplanted Big Pseudo Mini data while optimizing storage efficiency. First take. No, it wasn't. That wasn't easy to say, and technical descriptions can be hard to understand, so that's where the second important phrase comes in. Yeah, that wasn't the important one. Did that make sense how I said it? It sounded kind of hand-wavy to me. I love this. I'll say it again. Did that make sense how I said it? It sounded kind of hand-wavy to me. This is more of a framework than a phrase, although I use that exact phrase too. You could say, that was a lot of jargon. Did I say that in a way that made sense? Or, different organizations may handle this differently. Does my explanation fit your use case? These have different nuances, but the point is to alleviate any blame or shame around misunderstanding from the customer. I take responsibility for my message. If they don't understand, they can say so without looking like a dummy in front of, a room full of their peers. If you have any strategically worded phrases like these, please drop them in the comments below and hit the like button and subscribe for more IT tips. Until next time, I'm Steven IT. And if you're still here, I also want to use this platform to keep myself accountable as I try to live a healthier lifestyle. Last year I lost 35 pounds, and I'm currently 268 pounds. I'm aiming to lose about 68 more pounds before my wedding in the fall. Wish me luck. You're just trying to recant the question. Something's in my eye. Next. As looking for more information on how our transmogrifier rectifies, that's a real word. I'm using fake words. Why do I gotta burp? Wait. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement. This is not easy. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on base interval G-code functions. The transmogrifier leverages Python run. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on base interval G-code functions, storing variables as smaller placeholders. This lets transmogrifier call that pseudo data at need, allowing you to view your rectiplanted Big Pseudo Mini data while also. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on base interval G-code functions, storing variables as smaller placeholders. This lets transmogrifier call that Big Pseudo. The transmogrifier leverages. Why was I so high? Transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on big interval G-code functions, storing variables as smaller placeholders. This lets transmogrifier call that pseudo. Yeah, I was going to do it right, and I f***ed it up. The transmogrifier leverages Python run statement transformations on base interval.